Being There, titled Oltre il giardino Italian, from which the homonymous movie from 1979, directed by Hal Ashby and rewarded with an Oscar for the Best Actor in a Supporting Role, is a novel written by the Polish writer Jerzy Kosinski. He wrote the screenplay of the movie as well, adapting his novel to the film. In the movie, the role of Chance is interpreted by Peter Sellers, British actor, screenwriter, and director. He has been actor in the leading role in several movies, as for example The Pink Panther 1965, Lolita 1963, and James Bond Casino Royale 1967. The novel takes place in the city of New York, while in the movie the story is set in the city of Washington, since the political power is now concentrated in this city. In the meantime, the 1972 Watergate scandal was consumed, and this is the first literary adaptation difference between the book and the movie. After reading the book and seeing the movie, we have the impression that the adaptation has been for Kosinski not only a technical work focused on the character, but also an opportunity to rewrite the novel, extending some of the most significant scenes that in the book are written in a reductive manner, or vice versa, reducing other parts considered less appropriate to the film version. Chance, main character of the novel, is an orphan fully grown but remain illiterate and without any experience of the world. We can describe Chance as a very simple man, ingenuous, autistic, pathological and mentally retarded, that has lived all his life since his childhood within a house accepted by the owner to cure the garden. At the beginning of our story, Chance is forced to abandon a house where he lived all his life when the owner, who since the beginning of the story has been very ill, dies. Chance has no connection with the external world because he never crossed the door of his home. Beyond the garden, there is an unknown world to him. The only connection that Chance has with reality is watching continuously television, changing constantly channel and imitating expression and gesture of people reproduced by the screen. Chance has an unhealthy and imitative connection with TV that begins as curiosity and is transformed in imitation, from which he never takes his eyes. The life of Chance changes dramatically when he is forced by some judges to leave his house after the owner's death. He leaves the garden he never lived before and starts to discover the world, wandering around the city with his remote control, trying to change channel every time he doesn't like the situation in which he is. He meets a group of young men who insult and threaten him for a simple request of a street direction. In response, Chance points right at them the remote control in order to change channel. From my point of view, one of the most significant scenes takes place right when Chance finds itself in front of a television store where a TV at closed circuit transmits in real time the images filmed on the streets. Chance sees himself reflected on the TV screen like on a mirror, and the wonder is so great that he moves right and left, up and down, and finally he stumbles with a leg trapped between two cars. This episode is enlarged in the movie compared to the book in order to make it more relevant. This little car accident allows him to meet Eve Rand, who later becomes his lover, wife of Benjamin Rand, who is a very important businessman and an advisor of the President of the United States. The two, sorry for the accidents, invite him at home and become in a short while good friends, changing completely his life. A sort of escalation of success begins for Chance, obviously absolutely unintentional and based on a series of misunderstandings. Suddenly, Chance, from a simple gardener, becomes Chance Gardiner, surname of a high society family, and thanks to this he enters the world of high finance and high political charges. His presence in the high society of the United States capital, will be subject of curiosity since he appears as a man without past. The president will use the intelligence agency in order to know more about his previous life, without any results. The character of Chance, interpreted by Peter Sellers, communicates to the audience a sense of strangers compared to what is going around him, outside the frenetic life risks, with an air that is both enigmatic and of a disarming naivety. I remember also another scene of the movie in which Chance, during a phone conversation with a journalist proposing him an interview, gets distracted by a yoga lesson on television, reproducing movements and overshadow the importance of the call. A further paradoxical scene takes place in the room of Chance when Eve Rand tries to seduce him using her feminine wiles, while Chance remains stiff and impassive, almost stranger to the situation he is living, completely immersed, always using his remote control in the virtual reality of television. In other cases, Kosinski works on the reduction of the film compared to the book. For example, in the scene during the Russian ambassador party, Chance is approached by one of the guests, which is homosexual, who asks him to follow him upstairs. In the movie, this scene is left to imagination of the audience, while in the novel, Chance goes upstairs in the men's room, where an autoerotic scene occurs in which Chance, in naivety and ignorance, doesn't realize of what is going on, and confuses the erotic scene with a disease of the man. I like watching, implied the TV, is the ready answer of Chance in several occasions, also in front of a homosexual request that is more than once equivocated like it is the acceptance of sexual perversion. One of the main subjects of the book, but in my opinion especially in the movie, is the close relationship of the main character with television, a virtual world that replaces reality. As a general rule, the author will criticize the pervasive role of the television in the American society of those years. The author seems to suggest to the audience how television has become too central in the daily life of people who risk to know reality only through this tool of mass communication, and for it renounced to social relationships. If this book was written in these days, we would make reference to the internet and social networks world that shows us the virtual reality that not always helps us understanding the real world. The second issue concerns the relation between simplicity and wisdom. Chance is considered from all a wise philosopher, and his easy phrases are interpreted as words of wisdom, despite his language is banal and elementary. His very easy way of talking makes reference to words and expressions concerning plants, seasons, and the gardener life that are exchanged for metaphors. In the garden, growth has its seasons. First comes spring and summer, but then we have fall and winter, and then we get spring and summer again, says Chance to the president. The quote is interpreted as a metaphor of the economic cycle, whereby a crisis period follows a development period. In this case, the simplicity of the language is the result especially of his ignorance and how the world goes. But perhaps the most great wisdom is simplicity, the best way to manage the complexity of life. This is a message that more hit me both of the film and the book.